Both candidates are scheduled to make stops in the battleground state of Michigan.
The latest polling average from 538 shows Vice President Kamala Harris maintaining a lead of 0.9% as she tries to hold off a late surge from Donald Trump in the state. In 2020, President Biden won that state by less than 3 percentage points. And in 2016, Trump beat Hillary Clinton by less than 1/4%. Journalist Steve Freeze joins us now from Ann Arbor to discuss the state of the race in this all-important swing state. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us. So both campaigns have really focused on this state, but Trump and Vance specifically have visited Michigan countless times in the past several months. How effective have these visits been versus the Harris campaigns?
It will be very hard to tell. I mean, basically, what the Trump and Vance folks are banking on is getting rural vote up, getting suburban white male, non-educated or uneducated, non-college educated voters out to vote. They're also trying to make inroads on unions here, which are also predominantly white male in the car industry. They've been here, I mean, I think between them, they've been here like 25 times in the last several months, and they're going to be here I think today. Both of them are going to be in different parts of the state. And Harris and Walz are sort of catching up in terms of how often they're here, and they're a little bit more strategic about it than Trump and Vance have been.
And, you know, given how close this election is, each voting coalition can really be make or break for these candidates. And a key one is black voters, especially for Vice President Harris. When we look at some of the data, the University of Florida's election lab shows 22% early voting turnout for this coalition in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. I'm curious, what are your expectations for Michigan?
You know, it's interesting because I did go back to look at what the total voter turnout has been in Detroit over the years. And it is always lagging the state. The state can get up to like 60, 70% in total voter turnout. And Detroit typically maybe gets up to 52, 53%. So the fact that it's behind is very interesting because they are voters that will almost always vote for Democrats. But what's interesting about the early voting absentee ballot numbers here is that other sort of black stronghold cities like Benton Harbor, Ypsilanti, and Flint are all significantly behind the statewide average for turnout so far. And I realize we're talking a few days before the election, but in Michigan, we have 9 days of early voting, no excuse absentee balloting. And we already, as of today, as of the other day, when the most recent data was available, 33% of the entire state's registered voters have already voted. So you figure by the end of Sunday, when early voting is done, it could be over 50, 52%. It could be a significant majority of the people who vote will have voted before Election Day has come along.
And Trump won Michigan in 2016. Some say that was the state that cost Hillary Clinton the entire election because she didn't focus as much on Michigan. Biden, though, claimed the state back in 2020. Do you see factors stacking up that could swing this state back to voting Trump this election?
Just like everything else with this election, I could go down a list of reasons why Trump could win Michigan and why Kamala Harris could win Michigan.
It's been a long campaign season.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what is it? What year is it? But yeah, I mean, in Trump's favor is the fact that it does seem like the black vote, which is significant in the state, is less enthusiastic right now, particularly the black male vote. And I've heard a lot of people talk about how black men are not as excited about Kamala Harris as they were about Barack Obama. And then, in addition to that, the Trump campaign has tried really hard to make inroads into another very influential group in the suburbs of Michigan, which are the Arab and Muslim voters. They are disaffected with the Democrats, primarily because of Joe Biden's handling of the Gaza war. And Kamala Harris, since she's become the nominee, hasn't really made very much public effort to court this really important and very large group of voters in the suburbs of Detroit. The early voting totals are showing that they also are underperforming. I'm looking specifically at 3 cities that are known to have very large Arab and Muslim populations, which include Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck. And in 2 of those cases, the mayors of Dearborn Heights and Hamtramck have actually endorsed Donald Trump. And in the 3rd case, the mayor of Dearborn has not endorsed and actually had been pursuing being on the ticket with Jill Stein for the Green Party. So at least the leadership in these very heavily Muslim areas is not on the Harris train. And I suppose one of the reasons why is because they could be afraid of what Trump might do if he's president, and figure if they try to curry favor with him, they might have some influence. The other possibility is that there are social issues like LGBTQ rights and abortion that some Muslims are more conservative on and might swing over to Republicans on that score.
Yeah.
On the Harris side, I'm sorry.
No, please continue. Of course, Harris has faced a lot of protesters and hecklers now at her rallies over the war in Gaza in particular as well.
Yeah, on the Harris side, she's pushing really hard with disaffected Republicans, of which there are a lot in this state. Liz Cheney has been around the state with her. This is a state where 2 of our Republican congressmen voted to impeach Donald Trump. They're no longer in office. But that's sort of the independent streak of a lot of Republicans in the state who are also very, very strongly pro-choice and are very concerned about reproductive rights, and also about some of the authoritarian comments that Donald Trump has made. What I find very interesting is that in her closing effort here, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz came on Monday night to Ann Arbor, Michigan, my hometown and the town known for the University of Michigan. And she's going to be in East Lansing, which is where MSU is located, on Sunday night, which is pretty close to the election. And the thinking is that she's getting out there to try to make sure that students vote, and they will obviously more likely than not vote Democratic. But I have this little theory that there is a secondary motivation there, which is that all of those students have parents, and many of those parents live in the suburbs that she needs to win, and they will look at their kids' Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and whatever else, and they will see that their kids are excited about this candidate, and maybe that will help, because it did help Barack Obama in 2008. A lot of older people said they were voting for Barack Obama because their kids were excited about him.
Yeah, really interesting insight. Steve Freeze, thank you for your perspective. We appreciate it.